So imagine that you were a part of a cafeteria in which you had a prepaid system. So in such a system, what you'd be having is a token system. Like you'd have to give your token to the cafeteriast and she would verify it and check your balance, and then she would give you what you want to eat. So that's kind of exactly how JWTs work, and I'll demystify everything about JWTs in this video. As a matter of fact, it's what powers 90% of websites authorization aspects in the internet. So let's get started. So when you give your token to the cafeteriast, she looks at it, and the token is a pre-signed token. So it contains your name. It may even contain the amount of money you have left in the cafeteria, but like you can sign it with any data that you want, and that's the biggest benefit of using JWTs. So JWTs, it stands for JSON Web Tokens. And what does JSON mean? What does web refer to? And these tokens, what we were just talking about. So let's start with JSON. What is JSON? JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. So it's something that looks like this. If you worked in JavaScript, it looks very similar to an object, except it has these those string quotations outside. If you worked in Python, it's what you might call a dictionary, or in other languages it might be called maps. So this is a JavaScript object notation, and in any website or web app, whenever there's a data transfer between a client and the server, this is exactly how it happens. So what's the web part of JWT? So any website, let's say this website for example, it sends a request to the server. Okay, so in the request it would be sending the user data, sending it from here to here. So that's the data, the JSON data being sent to the server. In the server, it does some processing and it generates a token. So this token is sent back to the client, and it's stored usually either inside the local storage in case of React, or in cookies in case of everything else. So the token part. So Suraj, but you told me entire cafeteria analogy, how does it apply here? Okay, so here in a JWT you have three parts: a header, the payload, and then the signature. So the header part is, it's a JSON object which contains a few attributes, a few keys, like the algorithm that would be used to eventually encrypt this whole JWT, because every JWT has to be encrypted, otherwise it's really easy to just look at the data it had. So in this case it uses an algorithm called SHA-256, which it's a pretty common, powerful, effective algorithm, and it's a hashing algorithm. H stands for hashing, and hashing is an encryption process which cannot be dehashed. Like, as in, like, it is possible to dehash it, but it would require you a supercomputer and a couple of years, and for a stupid password I don't think anybody is going to go through such hell. Okay, so in JWT the data is converted to a string. It's encoded using base 64. So it's encoded, it's not encrypted. So it's encoded so that you can transfer it even faster than JSONs. And then the other part, the payload part, is where it contains all the data. So in the name you would have the name of the client, like the user, and then IAT stands for, generally you have IAT, which stands for issued at, the token issue time. So this time, this huge string is actually the number of minutes, number of seconds passed from a reference point. Like, this is a common reference point used by any website on the internet. So this whole thing is again encrypted using base 64 into this huge string, like the last time. So yeah, and then the signature part. Okay, this is the most important thing. This is what makes JWTs so secure and so preferable. So what it does is, remember the hashing algorithm we specified in the header? It combines these two and it hashes it. And to hash it, you need to have a secret key. Like, you're encrypting it with a key. So if you're going to hash something, you need to have a secret key. Never use this key as your hashing key, use something like this or something, but for now let's go with this. So once the whole thing is hashed, it's again encoded. Like after you hash it, you'll be getting a long string again. So now you have 3 strings. Okay, so what you do is you combine all of these 3 to get a simple token which you can easily send to the client and easily store inside any way you want it. You can store it inside local storage, you can store it inside a cookie. Most websites do this, and storing it in cookies are the most secure way of storing it. That's exactly what happens. So now a client, it sends user data. The user needs to be authenticated. The server does all these 3 steps we mentioned before, and then it generates a token and then it sends it back to the client. So this is exactly what happens on any website, any single website. And also don't forget to like, comment and share. Thank you for watching. See you around.